not a sixth grader. Well, you know, I'm not a sixth grader either. And it seems to me that when the Constitution says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, it means that right shall not be infringed. I want to talk to you about three things this afternoon. Number one, the Constitution matters. All of the Constitution. It's not pick and choose, it's not take the parts you like and get rid of the parts you don't like. For some reason, Obama liberals want to disregard the First Amendment and take away our rights to speak in political speech.
Shame on them.
For some reason, the Obama liberals want to disregard the Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment and have the power to use drones against U.S. citizens contrary to the Bill of Rights. For some reason, the Obama liberals want to disregard the 10th Amendment and are trying to implement Obamacare and take away our liberties. Every word of the Constitution matters. It is the fundamental protection of our liberties against the government. Thomas Jefferson described the Constitution as, quote, chains that bind the mischief of government. And the framers of our Constitution described the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms as the palladium of our liberties. The Constitution matters, and it should be everybody. Every elected official, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, should be unified in defending the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Secondly, we must do everything we can to stop violent crime. Every one of us here is a son or daughter, is a brother or sister, is a father or mother. Every one of us here has been horrified by acts of violence and madness by deranged individuals that would take the lives of the innocent among us. And yet, in terms of how you actually stop violent crime, the president is fond of using emotion and unfortunately disregarding the facts. I want to point out to you three facts that President Obama consistently refuses to address. Fact number one, the Obama administration has not made it a priority to prosecute felons and fugitives who attempt to illegally purchase guns. In the year 2010, over 48,000 felons and fugitives tried to illegally buy guns. Out of that 48,000, the Obama Justice Department prosecuted 44. 44 out of 48,000. That's just not acceptable. Fact number two, under President Obama, gun crime prosecution, prosecuting those who use guns in the commission of a crime, has decreased 30%. And you know, the president's hometown of Chicago, which is ravaged by violent crime, ranks dead last in prosecuting gun crime. And number three, President Obama cut over $300 million in funding from school safety. So today I released a very simple video that y'all have been watching here entitled 3 Questions. And it asked President Obama those 3 questions. Number one, Why is the Obama administration not prosecuting felons and fugitives who try to illegally buy guns? If you are a violent criminal, we should come down on you like a ton of bricks. And at the same time, we should safeguard the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. The Obama administration has it backwards. It doesn't prosecute the felons and fugitives. It doesn't prosecute the gun criminals. It doesn't put the resources there for school safety. But what does it want to do? It wants to restrict private sales between law-abiding citizens and go after the constitutional rights of the people who are complying with the law. That doesn't make any sense. And you know, when the Senate was considering all of these measures, there was a bipartisan law enforcement alternative authored by Chuck Grassley and myself. That what did it do? It provided funding, number one, to prosecute felons and fugitives who try to illegally buy guns. Number two, to prosecute violent gun crime. And number three, to restore funding for school safety to protect our kids. That bill got 52 votes in the U.S. Senate, including 9 Democrats. Yes. Indeed, that bill was the most bipartisan of any of the comprehensive legislation introduced in the Senate, with 9 votes across the aisle. And yet what happened? Harry Reid and the rest of the Democrats filibustered the bill and killed it, demanding 60 votes. It seems to me anytime Harry Reid or any of the Democrats who voted no on that return to their home states, citizens ought to ask them, why aren't you willing, why don't you support prosecuting felons and fugitives who try to illegally buy guns? They talk about violent crime, and yet their proposal didn't have 1 penny for prosecuting felons or fugitives or for prosecuting gun crime. The target of their legislation is not violent criminals. The target of their legislation is law-abiding citizens. That doesn't make any sense. Third and final thing I want to say to you today is in America, the people have the power. Yes. Yeah. You had the president holding obscene press conference after press conference after press conference, and his package of legislation that would have undermined the Second Amendment in Washington looked like an unstoppable freight train. Well, I'll tell you, I was proud to join with my friends Senator Rand Paul and Senator Mike Lee. In writing a short and simple letter to Harry Reid that said, we will filibuster any legislation that undermines the Bill of Rights and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear. What happened next was truly amazing. What happened next is each and every one of you, millions of Americans, began speaking out. Listen, the NRA is wonderful. Gun Owners of America is wonderful. The Second Amendment groups are wonderful, but every one of them is just a vehicle for you, for the people. And what happened in this battle is millions of men and women across this country got on the phone, got on the internet, got on Facebook, got on Twitter, spoke out and said, leave our Constitution alone. I have to tell you, it is particularly fun standing up here in front of a ginormous American flag. It's the closest a lawyer from Houston can ever come to feeling like General George Patton. But I will say this, I am looking at an army. And the voice of each of you is how we win. And because each of you spoke out, and because millions of Americans spoke out 2 weeks ago when the proposals came to a vote, every vote that would have undermined the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms was voted down. That's your victory. It's the victory of the American people, but let me caution you. This fight isn't over. President Obama and Joe Biden have both been coming out saying they intend to come back at it. You know, I have to note, by the way, Vice President Joe Biden did have some very helpful advice on this issue. You know, he said if your house and your family are ever under attack, all you need to do is go outside with a double-barreled shotgun and fire both barrels in the air. Which is very, very useful if it so happens you're being attacked by a flock of geese. But Vice President Joe Biden has said he is going to lead the fight to bring the legislation back, to try to pressure the votes that went against it, and to try to force it through the U.S. Senate. Well, I would like to issue an invitation to the Vice President.
Come and take it!
I would like to invite the Vice President, if he believes the answer to violent crime is not prosecuting felons and fugitives, not prosecuting gun crimes, but going after the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens, I would like to invite the Vice President to engage in an hour-long conversation and debate. How do we stop crime? Vice President Biden really believes the facts are on his side, that this is not simply an exercise in political power by the administration, then I would think he would welcome the opportunity to talk about the sources, the causes of violent crime, who's carrying it out, and how we can do everything humanly possible to stop it. I want to close just by saying to each and every one of you,